Dude, King Yuzi, you are indeed first. Well, actually, I do know what happened. My phone overheated because it's a piece and it could not take the heat. And, anyways, well, here we are. I'm sorry about that, folks. Live stream went down for a second, and so now it's going to be all broken up, and we got two videos, two feeds here, but hopefully everybody finds their way back. We have King Yuzi and Queen of San Joaquin. Everybody is back in here. So anyways, I guess that's what I get for Hello Crafter82. That's what I get for ranting about my diet and all of that stuff. But I'm always happy to talk about the things that have worked for me and literally everything that I have done in terms of my exploits as a climber. And, you know, climbing and photography go hand in hand. So for me, like, my ability to manage my blood sugar, manage my health, it's hugely, hugely tied up in what I can do with my gear because, you know, climbing got me into photography. I started doing climbing trips, and then on my rest days when, like, my hands and arms were so tired I could barely wipe my own rear end, you know, I would go out with the camera and, you know, go take pictures because I was traveling around in national parks and all of that stuff. And, you know, so my ability to manage my blood sugar in those situations gave me an appreciation and a comfort with being in the wilderness, which gave me the desire to share that with other people. And that's how I got here, telling stories and trying to encourage other people to tell their story and doing all this stuff. With photography. So to me, even though it's really disjointed that I would be rambling on about a ketogenic diet during a photography live stream, you know, to me it's all really part and parcel of the same issue. And the same goes with my enthusiasm for the gear that I use. But one of the things I enjoy is, you know, as I've said a little bit about, is just the fact that your perspective can change, and you can go in one moment from having a very liberal perspective. Everybody had a party after I left. Thanks, guys. Well, I'm glad at least I could facilitate that party for you guys. But yeah, glad that I have had the chance to be able to dabble in more gear, but also excited to have the chance to now start downsizing stuff. And yeah, looking forward to getting rid of my Fuji X-T2 and kind of moving into the Fuji X100 as my main stills camera. And so that is the most groundbreaking, exciting stuff that I have for tonight. I think I've kind of given you guys a little bit of a heads up of like where I'm going with the various things that I'm doing. Definitely want to start looking more at just playing around with old lenses. So anyways, that's what I got. My phone is like super hot, and I could continue chatting here for a little bit with you guys. Does anybody have any questions, anything you guys want to talk about? Because maybe it was just a sign that, you know, the internet had enough of my ramblings that the live stream cut out on us. You know, that could be it too. But anyways, I am going to actually have to start signing off here in the very near future. And so you guys can certainly have a party on this live stream too, but I didn't want to just, you know, let the phone shut off and whatnot. Hung Like Tic Tacs, yeah. X-Strip, you asked me something else. Favorite food for a low, I think, on the other stream. So when I have low blood sugar, the way I usually treat it, I don't use sugar or carbohydrates. Usually I use protein. Like today I had a little bit of a low, and it was because I ate like 4 hamburgers, and like, you know, I had like a triple patty, and then my daughter didn't eat her hamburger, and I wasn't going to let that go to waste. And of course, I, you know, just lettuce on my hamburger, and then, you know, I took the bun off of her burger, so I ate hers. And like when you have a huge pile of protein like that, it makes your blood sugar go up. So I had to take 2 units of insulin with my meal instead of my usual 1 unit. And my sugar started coming down. It wasn't like dropping super hard, but I could tell I needed to do something about it. So My favorite thing typically is either dark chocolate, like I'll use like 85 or 90% chocolate. I'll use like 1 square of that, or almond butter, or almonds or macadamia nuts, stuff like that. Um, that would that would be the things that I typically use to treat a low, unless it's like an emergency low where I legitimately feel like my life is in danger. And if it's that type of scenario, I'm probably going to use glucagon, use an injection. But one of the reasons why I use protein to treat my lows instead of carbs is because of the way that the ketogenic diet has changed the way that my body responds both to insulin, that my blood sugar doesn't crash when I go low, and also in relationship to the fact that when you're taking less insulin, you need less momentum going the other way to bring it back up, so you can make it's. There's a book that I would highly recommend for anybody who has diabetes or even wants to just learn some of the science behind it. But it was written by a guy named Dr. Richard Bernstein. It's called Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution, and it sounds like it's the worst title ever, frankly. It sounds like a cinnamon pills, okra water cure type of thing. But it's actually very well researched, and it's written by a fellow who's an endocrinologist who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in the 1940s, when like you didn't have, yeah, it's really, really worth getting and reading. Diagnosed in the 1940s and basically figured this stuff out on his own, and then became an endocrinologist in the 60s or 50s so that he could share this information and help other people. And he's almost 90 and still in good health with type 1 diabetes and perfect numbers, and like he's the godfather of like low carb eating in the world of diabetes. Super useful book for anybody to read in my opinion, just to get a different understanding of the way that nutrition works. But yeah, so that, I forget where I was going with that, frankly. But yeah, that's how I typically treat lows. I don't use X-Strip with the Dexcom Tic Tacs. I don't use anything other than that. I actually don't always use the Dexcom monitor. A lot of times I like just checking because my blood sugar doesn't really fluctuate. It's very, very stable. So there you go. King Yuzi asks, I am going to start making videos on my channel. Where would be a good place to start? So many options. Awesome question. And one of the many things, in addition to type 1 diabetes, ketogenic diet and low carb nutrition, camera reviews, and creative process and filmmaking discussions that I love to have on my channel, where I wind up talking about everything and anything, is YouTube. And I love YouTube, which I put more into this platform than I do than in anything else. And I've been making content for about 10 years on blogs and different social media stuff. And like YouTube is one of the few places where algorithms and adpocalypse stuff notwithstanding, YouTube is one of the few places where it is really possible to grow still without spending a bunch of money, which is really exciting to me. And it's funny how many people have overlooked YouTube, either because they think it's just for cat videos, or because the amount of money that maybe and time that goes into producing content. But like on Instagram, I've just kind of flatlined since they implemented the new algorithm and started doing the pay to play with the posts. Same thing with Facebook and Twitter. It's just like it's all noise. But like YouTube, it's still possible to grow and build a community. So I'm excited, King Yuzi, that you are starting to do that. One of the things that I would say, if you're starting to make videos, I would highly recommend the pay-to-play model. Apparently it works for those companies, but I think it's cool that Google has found a way to make money and still run a profitable business while still putting a lot of freedom and opportunity out there in the hands of the creators. And so I think YouTube is a really fantastic platform for that, and they're still innovating and still growing. I think that, in terms of the best type of content on YouTube, it's stuff that really means a lot to you, certainly. And I think that it takes time to refine what it is that you're doing. A creative outlet. And I think that, having it be something that's personal, like a creative outlet, you know, you'll find that as you make content, the direction and the focus will grow. People will find it, a community will develop, and it will take time. I would highly, highly recommend Video Creators. It's a channel on YouTube here that is outstanding, and Tim Schmoyer, the guy who runs that channel, if you ever have typed in any questions about YouTube SEO or growing a YouTube channel, his videos have probably come up. I've learned a tremendous amount from him, and just about, you know, best practices. He has an ebook that is like, I forget how much it costs. It's not that much, but it's an ebook that will help you do your channel well. And I think that taking the time to write good descriptions, to write good titles, to tag everything, and just understand, like, take a week and do some research on you know, on Video Creators. Watch a bunch of their stuff, take some notes, and then what I would do is start taking notes. I have, well, I don't have it with, well, I have another, one of my notepads. You know, I have a Moleskine notebook, which this is an old one, obviously, by the GoPro logo, because I don't own anything by GoPro, because I hate GoPro. But this is back before I knew that I was meant to hate GoPro. But sit down and plan out like 20 videos. Write them out and kind of get an idea of like what you want to talk about. And then that way, as you're starting to write out these ideas, you'll see themes emerging and saying, okay, I could go more in this way. You'll see some threads, and then you can either just say, okay, I'm going to have a channel that's a little bit more diffuse in the focus, and I'm going to have one video about the ketogenic diet and type 1 diabetes. I'm going to have another video about climbing, and I'm going to have another video about a camera review. If that's what you want to do, then you can totally do that. If you want to grow your channel and you really want to build a community, whether or not it's meant to be monetized or not, having more direction and more specificity will definitely help you grow faster. And it's taken me some time, because I started YouTube as a creative outlet, as you're saying, and so when I was interested in something, I would make videos about that, and then I moved on to something else, I make videos about that, and the channel didn't really grow, and it was just kind of dead. And like having a couple of videos with high views, I mean, you've probably seen camera reviews that have like tens of thousands of views on that video, and their channel is you know, has like 100 subscribers. So it's not all about getting tons of views. It's not all about, you know, little shortcuts and tricks. And Queen of San Joaquin said, I had to step back from my channel and make a plan. Amen. Make a plan and then execute the plan, and it will be so much better that way. And like viral channels, hung like Tic Tacs, you're saying, that's very true. King Uzi says, I need to save this video for reference purposes. I used to make ASMR videos on my second channel, gave up after a while when I started full-time work. Better grow organically rather than paying for likes and views. Agreed about growing organically, although growing organically doesn't necessarily mean growing slowly. I think a couple of things that are useful to keep in mind in growing a YouTube channel, at least let me put it this way. I don't have, you know, I have 4,500 and change, 4,600 people on my YouTube channel. I'm not a juggernaut. However, I went from 180 subs a little over a year ago to 4,600 while changing my focuses and my goals, and it's taken me some revision to get some of that established here and like really settle in on my niche as being about digital storytelling, which still could be a little bit more specific if I were to stay with just photography or stay with just video. But frankly, there's a point where you have to draw your own lines and say, do I want to be limited in this way? And most of the videos that I make at this point are about photography. And if I make a filmmaking tutorial or I deal with those topics, I'm fairly certain that most of my audience, even if they may not be way overboard and way psyched on it, they'll tolerate it occasionally. So it's close enough, they're adjacent enough topics where I can get away having a channel that's about digital storytelling And for amateurs, because there are a lot of people that I've found, like us, I would assume many of you on this stream, who are excited about doing videos and photos, who aren't like a professional, who say, I only do this and then I'm like the best person in, you know, this county or this state at this one thing, but they rather say, I want to take a camera out there and capture my experience. I want to do some video, or I want to do some photo, or photographers who are getting into video. So anyways, all that to say, narrowing your niche and your focus is something that is important, but if you make a plan, that focus will happen much sooner. I just made a whole bunch of videos and then went and looked back through my catalog and was like, okay, what am I doing here? What I should have done is I should have written everything out on paper and done like 30 videos and think about, okay, what kind of publishing schedule is going to be sustainable? What types of videos can I do consistently? Like, one of the reasons why a lot of my videos are me sitting in my house talking about something is because, you know, I could go out if I had another person to help me and I was making enough money off these videos. I could go out, hire a camera operator, go out and have like awesome adventures like Peter McKinnon and jump off of, oh, you don't want to get me going on politics. I'm going to get to that in a second, but otherwise I'm going to be here all night. I will share with you a little of my political views. You know, I could jump out of helicopters like Peter McKinnon and snowboard and go traipsing all over the place and do rad stuff if I had a budget to do that. However, I also need to be aware of the fact that, you know, for me to make one video like that would take me a week. For him, it takes him, with the team of people that he has creating, he can smash those videos out. And so it's much more important to have a sustainable level of quality, which, even if it's not, you know, the most spectacular Casey Neistat vlog every time, my channel has grown and I'm getting subscribers because people know that they're getting information and they're getting a level of quality that at least it's not going to be worse than this, and it's consistent. And if you set the bar clearly with your audience and you say, here's who I am, this is what I have available to me, the resources, and this is what I'm going to do, and then you deliver consistently. I mean, look at the Angry Photographer. God bless Ken Wilson. Like, I have never seen a less aesthetic presentation of video, and it's almost his trademark, where he has made a point of making zero effort, less than zero effort, to make good-looking video. He just, you know, sets the camera on a tripod, presses play, starts talking while he walks around, and then sits down at his desk and just kind of, you know, rambles. And, you know, there's so many people that hate on him and give him a hard time in the comments, but you know what? His channel, since I started watching him, like, consistently a year ago, it's grown from like 40,000, 45, 48,000 to over 100,000. He may not be making a living off of it, but I guarantee you he's making something off of it. He's not doing bad. So being authentic, developing a schedule to say, okay, what can I put out consistently? You want to do the best quality that you can do on a consistent level, with as much focus as you can maintain on a topic that keeps it fun for you and that allows you to really be heartfelt in the way that you're working on it. And when you have time, yeah, you can always go out and do hero content. You know, like I have some documentary projects that are in the works that I'm editing, and I'll put those together and I'll talk about how I made them, and I'll go out and shoot a little B-roll when I'm talking about, you know, my vintage lenses, and I'll, you know, when I go off on an adventure, if I'm going on a trip or going, like I might go out west once before spend that remaining $500 that I have in my bank account this summer, you know, before I go out west, or as I go out west, you know. Good night, Burlap. Good having you here. Good evening to you as well. Thanks for joining us. You know, I'll bring a camera and I'll make some hero content, you know, stuff that has a little more effort put into it, but that's not something that I'm relying on as the backbone of my channel. The meat and potatoes has to be something that you can do all the time. And one of the things hey, Christopher Holiday from Seattle, good to have you here. One of the things I highly recommend with YouTube, number one, make a plan and then execute the plan. So before you start your channel, make 30 videos, put them on a hard drive. Tic Tacs, I'm in Boston too. Boston area. You know, make videos, put them on a hard drive, get them ready to go, and then that way, you have a little bit of leeway. You know, you have a month or two of content where you can say, and I would recommend a minimum of 2 videos a week. And that's something to be thinking of as you make your plan, to say, what's the level of quality that I can do and the length that is going to be a good fit for me and for my audience. And again, a lot of that is, you know, a matter of what works for you. You know, Casey Neistat, his videos are almost all like in the 8-minute range. And there was a time when people would only watch stuff on YouTube if it was like between 1 and 2 minutes, and everything was 1 to 2 minutes. Now, you know, that's changed because people started doing it differently. So if you make content that you would want to see, that you would want to listen to, that you would go out of your way for, then the chances are there are many people who would want to do that too. The other thing, so make a plan, execute the plan, batch edit a bunch of videos so that you can start publishing, see what's working, engaging on your channel, and then before you have to like hustle to get more videos out, you can have things scheduled to publish like a month and a half out if you do that while you're making new videos, right? So that you have more time to then say, okay, I've got like some kind of talking head videos, some, you know, casual stuff, you know, I have a little more time to develop a series that I'm going to do, and then you get that shot, you get that ready, and then you still have videos that are being published on a consistent basis 2 times a week that keeps telling YouTube, this guy is serious, promote his stuff, this channel is growing, it's going places, get after it, and then you can publish your whatever the series is that you have after that. So stay ahead as much as possible and publish as frequently as you can at the highest level. Make a plan, execute the plan. The other thing, and I'm going to answer your question in a second that you just asked, the other thing is state the value of your channel in the intro every time. Every time I, do a video, I always I introduce myself, say, hey, I'm Steve Richert, I'm an adventure documentary photographer. This channel is all about encouraging you to tell your story with a camera. And I've changed that little tagline, that intro, many times because my focus has changed a lot. But at the end of the day, I want to have something that's very simple, that's a takeaway, that you can just tell people, like, here's why you should subscribe to my channel. And if you remember to do that, a lot of times people, it makes a difference. And then the other thing, in addition to stating the value at the beginning and the end of your videos, which is a very simple thing, putting, a decent description that tells a little bit about the video, what's in it, doing the work on the SEO when you post it, and putting links to all your other ways that people can connect to you. The other thing is fill out your frickin' about page and your profile page on YouTube, for the love of everything that is digital. Okay, like when you go to somebody's about page and it's just like, the checkered background, and it's just like this person, it's like driving past a building that has a for sale sign out front, but the windows are all smashed out of it. You're just like, nope, let's keep going. Don't want to live in this neighborhood. You want your SEO's search engine optimization. So that means like the things that tell Google that this video is valuable and that they should promote it to other people. And that has to do with the tags that you put in the video. It has to do with the description that you publish in the video and the text that you write out. It has to do with your title. It has to do with your thumbnail. And because Google is the great Satan, and they have they strip and record all of the audio and all the videos. Just kidding, Google. Nothing personal. They will actually analyze your video, the audio, to make sure that you're talking about the thing that is reflected in the title, that is reflected in the thumbnail, that's reflected in the description. And the more thorough your focus on the content, the more accurately it is tagged, it gives Google more information to determine whether or not it's valuable, and based on that, they will do that. YouTube has a course for creator. Did it help you? No. Pain in the butt, and it did not help me. Doesn't mean it wouldn't help you. I would highly recommend Video Creators channel, Tim Schmoyer. Everything from soup to nuts. Go through his channel, all the questions you have. Just spend a week doing nothing. Study his videos. He has a podcast too where he goes through all this stuff. He does live streams. He has a Patreon where he does stuff as well, specifically to help people. So most of what I have found that works for me, the things that I just articulated to you, are all things that I discovered through video creators channel. Tim Schmoyer, super nice guy, and one of the most, and I think this is one of the reasons why he's so successful, in addition to his very useful and good, reliable information, he is one of the most sincere people. Like, when he presents himself on camera, he is just the least pretentious, the nicest, the sweetest guy. Like, you just want to go, like, you know, give him a hug and go hang out or buy a beer and, like, sit down and chat with him. Just super cool guy. Super, super, super humble, super nice guy, and really genuinely helpful. And a family man, very, very down to earth and everything, too. So in terms of the tags, Rika, in tagging your video, the tags need to be the way you craft your tags and the amount of tags. So when you're tagging a video, and again, there are individual videos not on my channel, but videos that give good, solid information about how to tag your video. It's not like one-word tags. What you want to do is you want to enter tags that are corresponding to actual search terms. So if you use Google Trends and see what people are searching around photography or Panasonic G7, for example, and then use that to craft your tags for your video, that will help a lot. And also using enough tags and different tags and stuff like that. So again, tags absolutely do work. It's just you have to use them the right way. And I spend more time, or as much time, on most of my videos. The most tedious part of things is doing all of the search engine optimization when I post, writing out a description, putting all the links in there, putting the links to my Amazon store, which, by the way, if anybody's going to buy any photography gear and you go on my profile, and I need to do a better job of articulating this in my videos, but I state the value, ask people to subscribe fairly early, so I want them to know that I want them to do that, and I encourage them to, but I also need to do a better job of pushing the Amazon links, and I do that more, I guess, when I talk about gear-specific stuff. Yeah, keep trying, and I would recommend watching some videos about it, because I'm not the expert in how to use tags, but I know that using tags the right way makes a big difference, and like basically what Google's algorithm, as it gets smarter, what it's doing, it's looking for search phrases that appear in your description and in your actual discussion that also are being searched by real people. So if you make a video that says, that's asking a question, or, leaving some sort of a unfulfilled need where people feel like there's something they can get, like quitting pro photography, 5 reasons I'm done. Pro photography is something that people are searching on, and anyways, I don't want to go all the way down that rabbit hole. But I do love talking about YouTube, because it's exciting that even though they change so much stuff, that you can still get a lot of value, and you can still adapt to it and still put your message out there and grow a community of people to interact with that are awesome. Daryl Eves, Queen of San Joaquin, mentions Daryl Eves. Again, if you search anything about growing on YouTube, Daryl Eves and YouTube video creators, they will both come up. Highly, highly recommend those channels. Video creators is much more to my liking, just personality-wise, but Daryl Eves has some really good stuff too. King Uzi asked, how do my tutorial videos do? I would say good, not great. Tutorial videos are not really my expertise. They're not my thing as much. It's something that I like to do. Same thing with, like, I'm planning on doing the 10 things I wish I knew when I started photography, not the exposure triangle and that technical stuff, but really just things about photography that I think beginners should be aware of that will help them have a better time and greater success learning the technical details as well. That's a video that I want to do for myself. It could go really well, and it could go really poorly. And that's I'm going to do everything that I can to try to make it as enticing and provocative as I can. But at the same time, there are a lot of videos out there like that. I think that consistency, and if you really feel like you have something to offer, and also just don't be like, you're going to spend a lot of time making videos that nobody is going to care about, and that gets discouraging. And you have to be doing videos that you're happy about. But the thing is, when you find like those one or two, and like kind of like Tic Tacs, I don't know who you are in person. I don't even know. I may even know you in person and not know who you are. But you're one of the first people on my channel who really started to engage and interact with me and really take seriously the videos that I started putting out when I started talking about photography. Because I turned a corner in the channel and I said, I'm not going to, like, I don't want everything I do to be about diabetes and stuff. Like, I really want to focus on the stuff I'm interested in, that I feel like I have to contribute to the world, which is storytelling with a camera. And Tic Tacs, you know, God bless you, you were right on the ball, and you started like asking questions and engaging. And when you find that one person, then the videos, it's not about like, can I get 1 million views? It's about like, how can I make something that's going to help this person? And it's like, and it feels personal. And when it feels personal, because you are when you care about what you're doing and you're talking as though you're talking, because you are, and you should be talking to real people, it makes your work a lot better. A perfect example of this is Simon Cade on DSLR Guide. I love Simon Cade. I mean, he is just awesome. Like, I'm such a huge, like, super fanboy for Simon Cade, because his stuff, he manages to have like all of like the awesome B-roll and incorporate the storytelling into tutorial stuff, but does it in such a way that he's just so genuine, and like you feel like he's having a conversation with you, like you're the only person in the room. But like, he also made you this incredible story that was crafted with such like handmade, like, you know, like a hammer and a mallet that he sat down and carved this thing out of stone just for you. And like, he gives you that experience. Simon Cade, he has a channel called DSLR Guide. And you know, a lot of it's filmmaking, storytelling. Started it when he was like in middle school, and has been going all through high school, and now he's in university. And kind of like, it's funny because like, it's kind of like the Truman Show, like you've watched him grow up, but he's so passionate and so skillful and just wise beyond his years. But his ability, his personality comes through in such a way that gives a real experience to the person that like makes an impact. And I think that that's a really important thing to keep in mind too. It's not just the information you give people, but it's also the experience they get when they talk to you, or if they feel like you're talking to them in the video. King Yuzi said tutorials are one of the first things I've thought of. So many times I've had to make up techniques when video editing because I couldn't find them online. I think that tutorials are really useful because they are highly searchable. And so one of the things I would recommend is understanding that there are some things you're going to do that are going to be searchable and have potential to be bigger in terms of viral stuff. And you can even, like, if you look at Peter McKinnon's videos or Art of Photography or some of the big channels, you'll see that even though they have big numbers and you just see something with a comma in there in the view count and you're just like, ugh, I could never do that. But the truth is they have some videos that have like 100,000 views, and then there are others that are like 15 or 20,000 views. So like, there are videos that they have that are bringing meat in the seats, that are bringing in new people, but they also have videos that are just kind of like, I want to do this video and this is for the people who are already here. So you kind of work that into your strategy where you do some videos that are SEO friendly, searchable. Something like, yeah, Samuel, like you said, wet plate, how to do wet plate photography effect in Photoshop. That tutorial is searchable. Now, I don't know that you're going to have a huge amount of people. I was actually just searching for that recently because I saw some really cool stuff when I was looking at vintage lenses, and I fell down this rabbit hole. And so I happened to be, and I subscribed to 2 channels because I found one where the guy was like, yeah, all I do is buy old weird lenses and do really cool stuff with them. And I was like, that's weird. I like it. And it's all like, make this picture with a $10 lens. And I was like, yeah, that's totally cool. but I found it because I was searching for wet plate photography, and he happened to do a video. So again, tutorials are going to be more searchable. You build that into your strategy so that you're making some pieces of content that are searchable, and then you make other pieces of content that are just like, oh, you won't believe what happens when, you know, I go out with my friends, you know, for their birthday with a camera, or whatever. A terrible example. Like, okay, Peter McKinnon, I'm looking at one of his recommended videos. I can't believe this finally happened, double exclamation point. That's not a video that is going to rank really high in terms of searchability. But when you have enough people who watch your channel and who trust you, that are like, I care about what happened in King Yuzi's life that I'm not going to believe, and the thumbnail is enticing, they'll click on it anyways. But to bring new people in, you're going to have a slightly different genre of content that is still related to your overall topic, but that's going to be based around things like maybe tutorials, like gear reviews, like answering questions. So when I'm putting out these things like 5 things that I think beginner photographers should be considering when buying a camera, and I'm going to stand the paradigms all on their head and tell people stuff they don't want to hear, like they need to buy old crappy gear and slow down and not try to waste a bunch of money, and they need to spend more of their money and their time on getting time to go places and shoot interesting things instead of buying really fancy cameras with awesome lenses and then just sitting in their house and shooting potted plants because they don't have time or money to go anywhere because they spent it all on a whole bunch of camera equipment and don't have any budget to actually put that camera in front of something interesting that is worth taking a picture of. Sorry, I gotta save that for the video. But that is going to be a searchable piece of content. That is going to be something that, you know, beginners, you know, so you kind of switch that and you have a double, sort of a forked, two-prong approach to that. And I think that that's a good way to do it. Or some people just do only searchable content. The problem is when it's only searchable content, it's like once you have your answer to your question, and it's not like, oh, here's this person whose channel I've subscribed to because they know something. They did this tutorial. I subbed to their channel. But then I want to get to know them as a person a little bit more. Maybe I like the way they look at the world, so I'm going to keep watching their videos. If all they do is just hit me with tutorials, I don't need to know every technique on Photoshop. Like if I got the wet plate photography question answered, I would much rather see something after that that's like, oh, check out, you know, what I'm doing. I'm going to go to this, you know, camera store in Paris and I'm going to buy a lens or something, you know, whatever. Something that's much more relational, that's just like, oh, we're hanging out. This is a little bit less formal, right? But if it's another Photoshop tutorial, you're not going to really engage the people who subscribed to your video yesterday unless they need a new tutorial already and they're constantly doing new things. But so you have to have that balance between growing your channel and feeding your channel and relating to the people who are there with you, excuse me, and also, you know, connecting to the people that you're just meeting and bringing them in. And it takes practice and it takes time, but again, make a plan and then execute the plan. Tic Tacs, you had a comment here I wanted to address. You said, when I was first diagnosed, when I was first diagnosed with type 1, I YouTubed all my questions and interests, type 1 workout, type 1 photography. Really? Wow, type 1 photography. I'm thankful that you are literally the target market that I have had in mind, like the one person to search for type 1 diabetes and photography. That is the coolest thing. So main points then, to summarize King Yuzi saying, then would be make a backlog of videos, polish the channel video descriptions, plan everything, yes, and then have a strategy. And you know what, like, come on these live streams. I am more than happy to spitball stuff, like as you're going along, as you have questions. By all means, study the video creator's channel. If you have 30 bucks or 29 bucks to spend on his ebook, I get no financial kickback at all from saying this. Tim Schmoyer does not even know that I exist. But his book is absolutely worth $29 as you're starting off, to give you a good blueprint to move forward with that. And feel free to come back and ask questions, as I do live streams every week. I'm always happy to talk about this stuff. Be more than happy to give you feedback, grade your progress, and maybe that'll be like another subcategory of what I start doing on this channel, is start talking about YouTube growth and stuff, because like I'm at a point where I have experienced significant growth, but I'm still a small channel. So it's like I still have the benefit of being small and knowing the struggle, and also having the perspective of, still having had some success. And I think that, I mean, frankly, like the idea of telling your story with a camera, like that isn't just about making something with your camera. That's also about making something with your camera and putting it somewhere. It's about the publication and the distribution. Telling your story is not just making something that's pretty and then, oh, I leave it there, but it also is like, what do we do with it? And what we do with it, well, we put it on YouTube, we put it in a book, we make something out of it, and that's all what I am really passionate about, getting other people to feel empowered to do that, because it's changed my life. And maybe this changes your life, maybe you change somebody else's life, and on and on. Hung Lake Tic Tac, sounds like a hike in the mountains of New Hampshire is in order. You are correct. There is actually a Type 1 climbing event. It's free. It's in Rumney, New Hampshire, in the first or second weekend of August. I'm going to be speaking there. God forbid. I know I like to speak, so it'll be fun. Well, thank you, Rika. That's very kind of you to enjoy my positive contribution to humanity. And I'm about to get into my political views here to wind this show up. Yeah, so there is a free climbing event in New Hampshire. The folks that I know who run this, it's called Rock Type 1. It's a family. They're doctors. I used to actually go to the Dr. Scott, back when my insurance covered him, different insurance. Now I don't go to him anymore, but they have a nonprofit. Their son has Type 1, and they do stuff for like families and people with Type 1, and it's focused on just getting people with Type 1 outside and getting people with Type 1 together outside to do stuff. So check out that event, rocktype1.org. Or drop me a comment, message, whatever. It would be cool if you go up there, since we're both in Boston area, maybe even caravan or something like that, or like I can pick you up on my way up, because I'm coming from south of Boston up to New Hampshire, and I'm going to be speaking at that anyway. So let's touch bases about that. So what I want to do, just to kind of wrap things up, I got asked about my political views, and this may be a terrible way to wrap things up, because this is going to lead to more questions and be interesting. My political views, I am a very practical person. I believe in common sense and practicality. If you search, if you search either one, it should come up, but I think it's the number one, rocktype1.org. And if anybody here is interested in supporting small, local, really awesome charities, they do really good work, and they are tax-exempt organization. But in terms of my politics, I like to think that politics are a reflection of who we are in every other area of our life and what our character is. I'm a big believer in reality and practicality. So do what works, and, life is difficult, life is not fair. And sometimes you can do the right thing and still lose, and sometimes there is no right answer, and you have to make the best choice with what you have. So personally, if I had to classify myself, I am I lean more towards libertarian views, because of the fact that I believe that what is going on today with political correctness and the snowflake people who who are afraid of being offended, I think is very, very problematic to me. And the fact that there is censorship and this crackdown on free speech and people being able to express their views, and frankly, and it happens both on the left and the right. I am not a Republican. I am not a Democrat. I'm unregistered. I was registered Republican when I was in college, which was like 10 years ago, and I kind of realized that the whole thing was a racket. It's an illusion of choice, because the guys on the left and the guys on the right, they're just, they're both trying to knock over the same soda machine, but they got to push it back and forth, and they're just trying to disrupt everything to keep people separated and angry. And that's what all the political correctness comes down to. That's the issues of race and politics come down to. I have found that, whether somebody is black or white, whether they're an immigrant or not, what religion they are, the vast majority of people, if you get them in a room with each other and you don't try to say, you can't say this and don't say that, and where you just let people be people, and accept the fact that people are flawed. Everybody has an inherent distrust for people that are not like them. Everybody is afraid of something and someone for some reason because of things that they hold dear. It's not about who is, and I mean, this is my political philosophy, and I don't think that any political party currently supports this, because what I'm saying makes sense, and they're not in it to make sense, they're in it to create chaos and disruption. The political power structure is about keeping people divided. And I also don't spend a lot of time ranting about it, because like most people just want to argue. And one of the things, like I've said to my wife many times, she and I don't agree on many things politically speaking. She is in a lot of ways more liberal than I am politically. I'm fairly conservative in a lot of ways personally, but I'm conservative in a personal sense, if that makes any sense. In other words, I don't necessarily see my conservative, and this is where the libertarian thing comes in, because my goal is not for everyone else to think like me. My goal is for people to understand why I feel the way that I do, respect it, and not try to change my mind, and not try to make me think that I'm a bad person because I'm a Christian and I'm a white male and etc. Like, I don't think other people are bad because they are not any of those things. And my goal is not to, take anything away from other people. And my goal is not even to promote my own self above anyone else. But I think that a lot of the conversations that are happening nowadays, and it happens under the guise of trying to promote special interests, whether it's women, people of color, people of various sexual orientations, what it creates is more division. It doesn't create compassion and collaboration. It is more of a like, oh, you screwed me, figuratively speaking, I hope. I'm going to screw you back harder. And this is why, like, it's my turn to get on top and put my boot on your neck. And that is the way that a lot of this stuff comes out. And it's like when a lot of the things happen, like with Black Lives Matter, I have friends that I really respect who are black or of African descent. I don't know what the politically correct term is, because to me, African American is literally somebody who is like recently immigrated. I do have friends that are African American from Ghana. They, their parents are from Ghana. And they're much more Christian and conservative in a lot of their views than many people that I know who are, white and like, can be. So it's like, you don't know what people's views are. You don't know. And that's the whole thing with like political correctness. It teaches us that certain people, based on their demographics, based on their gender, based on their handful of characteristics, that you can put them in a box and say, because you are of this ethnic descent or of this religion, this is the way that you feel about the world. And the truth is, it's not that way. So that's generally some of my philosophy. I don't know if that answers any questions. From a political standpoint, I did not vote for Donald Trump. I didn't vote for Bernie Sanders either. I think that even a stopped clock is right twice a day. I think there are some things that Donald Trump is trying to do that are not terrible. I think there are a lot of people who hate him just because they want to hate him because of what he represents to them, which is rich old white guy. And we've been told that rich old white guys are the problem. But at the same time, like, I don't think I'm ever going to be a rich old white guy, but I'd like to be an old white guy at some point. And I'm married to a woman who is not white. So, like, I have some understanding of, like, I think that some of the things that he is trying to do are valuable. And I think that a lot of people, they just are not, they don't want to give the idea a chance. They want to judge the person, and they make it personal. And the truth is that, like, there are luxuries that I have. So let me put it in this context, like with like the immigration stuff. Okay, if somebody shows up to my house, I will give them the shirt off my back. I actually don't have a house. I live in my mother-in-law's house because I'm broke as crap, which is the reason why I make YouTube videos, and I'm going back to college, right? But if I had a house, somebody shows up in my house and they're a refugee, I would take them in, no questions asked. I believe that it is a Christian thing to do. I am a Christian. One of the things that I take from the Bible and that I believe is, like, you practice your beliefs. You don't, I mean, not that it's bad to talk about your beliefs, but that it's more important to practice your beliefs than it is to talk. Because at the end of the day, what you do is what people take away. And so, to me, showing compassion, helping people, I believe in that. Now, I have that luxury because it's my family with my property that I can say, I'm going to make a judgment call and help this person who may be an immigrant coming from another country, maybe a refugee, etc. I can extend them that kindness. If I were the president of a country and I was responsible for everybody, would I have that same ability to make a judgment based strictly on my personal decisions? Or would I have to say greatest good for the greatest number because I am responsible for a much larger population, and so I have to deal with this differently than Joe Schmo down the street would have to deal with this if it's just somebody in his house? Very different situations. And I think that, again, people take things personally, take things out of context, and they interpret them. But it's like, if you were in that situation, how would you do things? And so, again, I don't know. I like to avoid painting things with a super broad brush and saying that everybody is good or everybody is bad or this, that, and the other thing. It's like, I mean, I was actually over in the Middle East when the first travel ban was being discussed, and people in the United States were weeping about just the unfairness and how awful this was and how Trump is just such a terrible person and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, like, I get why people don't like that. However, here's a little reality check. Like, I just went from Dubai into Oman, and they don't want people, they will not give citizenship to somebody who is not of the Muslim faith. And it's, having spent time there, it's not because they all hate me because I'm white or because I'm Christian. They just are like, look, guys, we get that that's what you like, but this is our corner of the world, and this is the way we want to live. We have our culture, we have our way of life, and we're not really interested in having other people bring their culture here. We want to keep our culture the way it is. We're happy with it. We like it. So you're welcome to come and visit. We're going to be nice to you. We're going to serve you good food. We're going to take your money. And, we'll maybe even give you a job here if you're going to bring something to our economy. But, let's keep it at that. We don't really want to, like, get married and jump into bed with you and have, like, all this, like, things get weird. We want to keep our country the way that it is. Which is the same thing, basically, that Trump and a lot of the other people were saying over here. Nobody's going down and protesting in Dubai or Oman and saying, oh, how dare you do that? Like, this is do with your own country what you actually want to do. Look out for the interests of your own people first. You're just a bunch of xenophobes and awful people. No, you know why? Because any other country in the world, they're like, you have a problem with the way that we're doing things? Here's a nice jail cell for you, and you can sit in there and rot for all we care. Or they'll just put you on, like, you give somebody the finger in Dubai, you will be deported. It's no questions asked. It's like, who the hell are you to come in here and be a schmuck to our people? They don't say schmuck because that's a Yiddish word, and they do not like Israelis in that part of the world. If you have a passport stamp from Israel and you try to go to Dubai or Oman, they will just simply not let you in. It's like, oh, you've been to Israel? No thanks. We don't want you here. Because, and it's like, I get it. Like, I look at that and I say, I don't hold that against them. It's like, yeah, I can understand they have tensions. It's better for their people, for their country, for their way of life if they, just like for your YouTube channel, it's better if you pick a topic and you stay on that topic, you do things a certain way, you have a formula, and it works, and then everybody's on the same page. There's not dissonance and everybody going a million different directions. And my point isn't to say that we should do things differently in this country, but it's just like being over in the Middle East and seeing the benefits of a country that says, we're going to do things one way, this is how it is, and if you don't like it, tough shit, we don't care, right? how much easier that is and how much prosperous they are. You know, because of the fact that they keep things simple. Okay? And I'm not saying that we should necessarily do that here. What I am saying is that the fact that we don't do that here and we do try to accommodate people way more than other countries do, it is a sacrifice. And so looking at people complaining about, you know, being in the Middle East and looking over across the pond, seeing people in the States complaining about how, oh, America's so awful and we're so terrible and we hate everybody and this is just so unfair. And like realizing that the reason why everybody is up in arms and are out there protesting is because we tolerate people having a difference of opinion. We tolerate having a society that is not homogenous, where people can be who they are and have different enclaves and subcultures and like do this stuff that does not happen in a lot of other places in the world. And frankly, I love the time that I spent in Oman. If I could be a citizen of a country of Oman, you get a job, you get healthcare, cradle to grave, you get a piece of property when you get married, you're guaranteed employment. I would not be living with relatives unable to provide for my family if I were a citizen of Oman. And there are benefits to the homogenous society that they have created. But like the lack of perspective, I guess, is what I look at. And I say, you know what? We're not perfect. We don't have everything nailed down. But at the same time, there's trade-offs. There's no free lunch. Whatever you want to do, if you want to shoot mirrorless or DSLR, you're going to be trading one thing for another. If you want to shoot, you know, old crappy stuff, you're going to save a lot of money, maybe go to some really awesome places with the money you save, not buying the Sony A9. But if you buy the Sony A9, well, then maybe you're only going to be able to take pictures of like the potted plants in your house because you can't afford to buy gas to go somewhere. There's always trade-offs with everything, and it's the same thing with politics, and it's important to approach that from a, and honestly what a lot of it comes down to, it's not a matter of like what views we hold, because to me the view that I hold that is most important is conversation about stuff like learning how stuff that I'm teaching my toddler about learning how to disagree, agreeing to disagree, and that it's okay. That we don't all have to have the same viewpoints. And just to address this comment, Daniel Crotty says, let's not start the PC discussion. A lot of people just want respect, and many don't have compassion or desire to offer. Writing off people on either side is the problem. 100% agree with that. You know, but political correctness is part of that problem, because there are, here's the thing, there is a percentage of people who are reactionary on either end of the left or right, for lack, you know, to make things binary. There are people who are reactionary who, and I have a saying that I like. It's not my saying, I heard it a long time ago, but the saying is, you can always tell an asshole, but you can't tell them much. And this is very, very true of a lot of people. And what has happened is our propensity to deliberate on social media instead of actually going out and engaging in person, it changes the discussion. And so what I like to always advocate to people is go out and do the things that you believe in. If you believe in, you know, being a good citizen and like helping people, or like, you know, people like to sit around, slacktivism, people like to argue on Facebook. And all they do is divide themselves from other people. And at the end of the day, if you go out and spend more effort trying to live your beliefs instead of preach your beliefs, then you have the ability to actually connect with people more. Hi, sweetie. And you have, you know... Okay, sweetie. Could you just go lie down? I'll be right with you. I'm trying to explain to my friends what my political views are, and my daughter wants me to put her to sleep. So I'm going to have to go do that in a little bit here. So I will be signing off fairly shortly, but to me, the thing is, like, in a good friends have to be able to disagree and even have painful disagreements on fundamental issues. It's very important that people can share that stuff openly.
I want to talk to the microphone.
You want to talk to the microphone? Okay, come here. Oh, you're getting heavy. Okay. Well, Daddy's predominantly going to be talking to the microphone. What do they feed you, kid? But yeah, we do have to all live here. We do have to all get along. And, you know, the simplest way to, thank you, yeah, she has beautiful hair. The best way to coexist is to not be pretentious. And this is the thing that drives me up a wall with political correctness, is that political correctness does not keep inconsiderate, angry, awful people from being angry and awful. It just deludes the conversation, muddies the water, so that the other 90% of people that aren't that bad get frustrated and are unable to talk about stuff. And that's why you have a guy like Trump, who's a loose cannon, who comes in and is able to win an election, because people in this country, and I suspect in other countries as well, are tired of having like, oh, you can't say this and you can't say that and you don't want to trigger this person, and if you offend that person, it's like, look, you know what? People are flawed. I'm going to offend people. Not because I want to. Yeah, I know, she is sick of my ranting. Say goodnight, Lilo.
Good night.
Okay. I'll be right there. You know, but people need to be able to have an outlet to blow off steam, to have a conversation, to be honest about stuff. And when people have to pretend that they feel one way, even if that way is wrong, you know, as long as they're not hurting another person or endangering another person, people, like assholes, are people too. They need to be free to be jerks. Because if you try to suppress that, then it takes more, it goes underground and takes more insidious formats. And like, part of humanity is flaws and evil. Like, that's going to always be with us. You know, we have to find a way to deal with people who we don't like, who may even be hateful and bigoted and all that stuff, but to deal with them in a way that doesn't make the problem worse, and that doesn't force us to go onto their level, and that doesn't cut off everyone else and throw the baby out with the bathwater. And that's the problem with political correctness, is political correctness discourages conversation. It discourages honesty, because people are afraid, people are not equipped to deal with a situation where it's like, we disagree and I'm offended. And like, okay, that doesn't mean that I hate you, doesn't mean that I wish you any ill, or that you wish me any ill, but like, I'm under no obligation to, you know, I mean, frankly, people are not under any obligation to even be respectful to each other. That's why tolerance is important. It's like, you tolerate people that you don't like because you can only go so far with them, you can only tolerate them, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing to say, let's just tolerate each other, not come to blows, not harm each other, and, you know, just let it go. But you have to create space. And, you know, so that's, you know, an interesting conversation, association and dissociation, and just like, yeah, let people be people, and understand that you're going to have to take the good with the bad, and that, you know, there's not, you know, trying to push for everybody to act the same way and hold to the same standards is not healthy. And when you do it, it actually creates backlash in the opposite direction, and taxation is theft. Yes, I don't disagree with that. I mean, at the same time, I also do benefit from living in Massachusetts that has really high taxes, and that also has good health care as a result. So I could be flexible on some of those issues. You know, and yes, and King Yuzi, another thing that would help us to try and understand the other person's way of thinking, you know, because part of the thing is people always tend to attribute the worst to people that they disagree with. And it's like, there's a pretty, you know, people who disagree with me and have had very different life experiences are going to arrive at very different positions in their thinking. And that's okay. And they didn't get there most of the time for no good reason. They probably have a reason that they wound up in a very different position or a different view. And that's okay, you know. But my biggest thing is get people to interact with each other in a real way. You know, like common decency. Say what's on your mind respectfully, but think about how you say it, because you have to maintain a relationship with that person. Nobody does that online anymore, because it's like, oh, I don't have to see this person. They live in California, and I can just sit here at my keyboard and type and like call them names and needle them and stick their, you know, deeply held views and call them a bigot and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, instead of saying, you know what, maybe there's a better way to say this that's more constructive, and then find a way to disagree, like you would if you were in person. But nobody talks in person anymore because the connection is not there. And I'm part of the problem because I'm sitting here on YouTube, right? Anyways, guys, this was an interesting conversation. I assumed that my politics would come into conversation at some point. I don't know if I actually gave you an idea of where I'm coming from or not, but I believe what I believe, and I think that, you know, you got to do what works and what helps people deal with the practical realities of people being human. And I think giving people as much freedom and liberty as possible, that's the way that I like to approach it. So anyways, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. You can probably provoke some more of these types of rants and conversations in future live streams. I have enjoyed this second round, and Rika, Tic Tacs, King Yuzi, you guys were the bulk of the conversants here as I started going off the deep end into the political spectrum. You were also the instigators, so I thank you for all of that, and everybody who has been in, checked in, and participating. Thank you. And if you haven't already subscribed, the three of you that are on that I know already have, make sure that you do. I'm sure YouTube is not going to be promoting this video with all of the crazy political discussions that are going on here, and oh well. Anyways, have a good evening, guys. Good weekend. We'll be looking for videos next week. Hopefully I'll get some done, get those out for you guys. Love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me what you're interested in. And yes, thank you, Rika. I enjoyed having this conversation as well. It's good to talk about things that are not strictly... It's good to have a rousing debate where you have to, where you have to like really match wits a little bit, and like where you push and pull. It's healthy. It's a good thing. People shouldn't be afraid of that type of conflict. We should be comfortable enough with our beliefs that we can articulate them kindly, respectfully, but also firmly and with conviction, and be okay when people aren't receptive, without having to be ashamed of the fact that this is the way that we feel about stuff. So, yeah. Go out there and talk to somebody. Tell your story. Use a camera. But don't get too stuck in the whole digital thing. Otherwise, you'll never make connections with real people. So, all right, guys. Have a good night. Nice chatting with you all, and we'll see you on the next one. And stay in touch, King Yuzi, about the video, the YouTube stuff. And anybody else who's out there who's doing YouTube stuff, let's keep that conversation going. Good night.